What is up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new video. And today we are going to be talking about the most important topics that are going on in Russia right now. And you're hearing all of this from a Russian-born citizen, so don't forget to subscribe and like the video to get the most realistic content on what is really going on in Russia right now. Well, I could say straight away that there's probably going to be another mobilization, and I'm 99% sure that something like this would happen because the head of the Human Rights Council, Pyotr Fadeyev, called for all men to be sent to the army. Regardless of their medical indications, he suggested that the sick and the disabled citizens can work in the kitchen or as clerks. And this is the head of the Human Rights Council. And before we get more into this topic, check out this video that I have translated for you.
I think we need to go back to a truly universal draft. We currently have third or even quarter of young people going through the army. I am not calling for mobilization and sending young people to the front. I ask you to understand me correctly. That is not what we're talking about. I think that every young man, regardless of his health, if he's not very healthy, let him serve in the kitchen. I don't know, at headquarters, work as a clerk.
Can you imagine this, right? The head of the Human Rights Council is saying this type of stuff. Imagine, if the head of the Human Rights Council thinks this way, it's scary to imagine what is going on in the heads of the other government officials in Russia. This guy is saying that no matter who you are, if you're disabled or you're very sick, you still have to go to the army. And he's saying this because a lot of people in Russia did not get mobilized because a lot of them had different conditions, like a flat foot, I'm not sure what it's called, and also when you have stomach problems or you have asthma or anything like that. If you have asthma, you're not supposed to go to the military. So this guy is saying, screw all those disabilities. Let's get them into the army and get them working. This guy, like, come on. If you're thinking this way, I'm pretty sure this guy probably has kids. Why don't you send your kids to the front line? Why don't you send them being as cooks or anything like that? This is just unbelievable, and this is what the Russian government is doing. They do not care about their citizens. They care about their craziness in their heads. I really hope that Russia will change one day for the better. But I don't know what has to be done to do it. And the only thing is probably if everybody stood up who is against it and actually did something. Because without it, nothing will happen. And all of you guys are going to be saying, oh, well, Ivan, you're a Russian, you should have been doing it there yourself. Well, I'll be honest with you. I know for a fact the moment I even think of doing something like that in Russia, I will end up in prison. So something very big will have to actually happen for this government to be overthrown. Now, I can tell you one thing. The Russian citizens are not happy hearing the news from the head of the Human Rights Council. A lot of people, even in the pro-Z channels. So look, to make the news for you guys, I spend a whole day searching through the internet, through Telegram channels, pro-West, pro-Russia, and the middleman, who's not pro-West or pro-Russia, just giving out some news articles. And the pro-Russian, which I call the Z Telegram channels, they are very angry with the news they're hearing. They're also saying the same thing as I'm saying right now, which is send your own kids to the front line. Or mobilize us, but mobilize your kids first to set an example. Obviously, that is not going to happen. What do you guys think about this? Type in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your opinions on this, but I'm 99% sure that there's going to be a mobilization. Maybe they're not going to be calling it a mobilization in Russia. It could have a undercover name for this, but if you guys remember, the first mobilization that was signed by Vladimir Putin is not over officially. He said that it's over by his word, but for mobilization to be actually over legally, he would have to sign a decree stating that mobilization is over, which means anytime soon they can say, well, you know what? You guys are all going to the front line. And we actually did not end the mobilization. Putin didn't sign anything. And people are obviously going to be asking questions, but this is the Russian government. They say one thing, and then the other thing happens. When they open their mouths, you know they're lying. And I'm saying this as a Russian citizen, guys. I know my country. I know what's going on inside of the country, and I really want all of it to change because Russia is a beautiful country. I'm a huge patriot on my country. I do not like my government whatsoever, and I believe that if we had a democratic government with presidents changing every 4 years, the country probably would have been one of the best countries in the world with the resources, the genius people that live in Russia, that lived in Russia. A lot of them have left for better life in the States and Europe, but that's another story to tell. Now, before we get to another topic, in the previous video, guys, I told you that I'm going to be making a video about the Russian propagandists' children and the government official children that live in Europe and the United States of America. I sure will make that video, but I'm just compiling the information to make a really interesting investigation for you guys to observe. To the next news. And the next news is, I call this the everyday life of a superpower. In Irkutsk region, children have stopped going to school because they simply cannot get there. You might be wondering, why can't they get over there? Well, simply because there are no roads. There's this dirt road where kids cannot walk through, ambulances can't get through, school buses can't get through. Nothing can get through that flippin' road. You need a proper off-road machine to get anybody around the place. Now, this is to show you the reality of some of the Russian roads, and they're not really in the best conditions. So nobody can get there whatsoever. So obviously the children can't simply physically go to school. But you know what's interesting about this region? You guys see this road. It's a dirt road. Nothing can get through. You need like a BTR or a tank to drive through this. But the most interesting part of this is that there's 35 companies in this area that mine gold. Could you imagine this? 35 companies mining gold in that region, and that region has absolutely no roads, so kids can't go to school, but somebody is earning millions, and those are the Russian oligarchs making millions, whereas the school children from normal Russian citizens can't even go to school. Unbelievable, but this is the reality of Russia, and I want to share everything with you so you guys will realize how good, first of all, your life is probably, and second of all, it's really important with what is going on in the world right now to know the reality of what goes inside of Russia, to understand every single step that they take, and to understand what goes inside of Russian citizens' heads. Now, to the next topic, you guys know that there was an incursion of Ukrainian troops into the Kursk region. And a lot of people have lost their homes. And imagine you're a person who lived in Kursk and you had a house or an apartment and it got completely destroyed or taken over. The government of Russia has you sorted out. You don't have to worry about anything. It's Russian government's fault, so they thought it's a great idea to fix up the problem for the residents of Kursk. We will make sure they will be able to get a full compensation for their houses. Drum roll! They got 150,000 rubles as a compensation of losing their homes. For you guys to understand, that's around like $1,500, around that area. I didn't calculate it, but it's like 1,400, 1,000, like 550, something like that. But imagine this, you lose a house and you get $1,500 because you lost your home. It's like, it's the government's fault that this happened. At least have them like an apartment, buy them an apartment, or do something. The government just doesn't give a flying duck on its citizens. This proves it. And you know what? I'm pretty sure the people of Kursk are probably going to be the first ones to stand up. And if they don't, I literally have no idea what goes in the brain of Russian citizens. Now, a lot of Western YouTubers who live in Russia and a lot of Russians themselves are always shouting in many of their videos that sanctions are not working and screw the sanctions, you're not gonna get Russia down. Russia is a big country and we don't need anything from you. Oh, you removed McDonald's, who cares? We open up a Vkusnaya Tochka, which is basically the exact same thing, but this is just a small problem. Who cares about McDonald's? Okay, McDonald's left, you got Vkusnaya Tochka, pretty much the same, right? But a lot of people don't understand one thing, that sanctions don't work with a click. It takes years and years for sanctions to take on effect. But you know what? Russian airlines will raise their ticket prices in September due to an increase in the airfield repair fee. Fares on domestic flights will increase by 37% and international flights by 100%. And if you guys don't think this is crazy, this is crazy. First of all, you got to realize that a lot of cargo flies in airplanes, which means 37%. The goods in Russia are going to rise even more after this. Second of all, Russians will not be able to afford to fly anywhere out of Russia. Just so that you will understand, Russians can barely afford a ticket to fly to another country, not even talking about being able to afford to buy a ticket to fly somewhere inside of Russia. But now it's going to be impossible. And if somebody says that you could take out a loan in the bank, you're going to be paying like 25% interest rates for that ticket. So Russia is going to be a no-fly zone because Russia cannot service the fleet of airlines that they rented out, funnily enough, from Ireland, where I went to school for 11 years, and they didn't give them the airplanes back when they got sanctions, and they were supposed to take the airplanes back. So Russia withheld them, and now it's very expensive to service them, probably in Iran, because from what I heard, all those airplanes were serviced in Iran. Oh, it's getting really sketchy flying Aeroflot, isn't it? So obviously the experts are saying that the demand of flying is going to drop drastically. Obviously, 37% domestic and 100% international flights, way expensive. Holy smokes, that's going to be really expensive to fly around anywhere out of Russia. So glad that I flew out before all of this happened, because I would have to sell my kidney to fly out of Russia with my 2 cats and my girlfriend. Now to the next news. It's very interesting in talking about sanctions that supposedly don't work. Today is the 12th of September, and on 12th of September, guess what happens? New sanctions are starting to work in Russia. So a lot of people were saying that they don't work and they don't care about sanctions. Listen to this. Let me read this out. On September 12, the sanctions of the U.S. Treasury Department on the supply of software and IT services to any persons in Russia will come into force. Everything is removed. Data, project files, sites, Notion, Wix, Sentry, Recraft, HubSpot, Coda, and ClickUp have already left. Those are the companies that left. And these are just the most well-known services. So there's probably going to be a lot of services that we don't really know about, but they're going to leave. Well, not leave, they will have to, because sanctions, you know? The forecast for Russian companies is very bad. First of all, there are no alternatives that are made by Russia. So Russian companies will have very big problems operating, because Russian companies are already preparing their employees that Google is going to be disabled, Figma and Zoom services. So from what I heard, it's impossible to register an account in Google, in Gmail right now with a Russian number. So I'm guessing that all of this stuff can stop, even Gmail. And I'm pretty sure that this just is probably going to help out the Russian current regime that's governing the whole country, which is sad, but at the same time, those sanctions are made for people to understand what their country is doing is wrong. I just hope that those employees are going to understand and what they're losing out and why this is happening. Not because the US is the Russian enemy. I'm pretty sure that US and Russia could have been one of the best allies ever, but because of the current regime, it's not possible. Maybe one day we will be able to travel around Russia and the States easily without having very hard time getting a visa. But that's probably going to happen when I have grandchildren. I hope my grandchildren will be born in the US so that they can travel around the world with absolutely no problem, have freedoms, and enjoy their life. Now, on another news, I just found that really funny. A lot of people are just telling me that Russian roads are great and stuff like that, but there is a deputy from the Russian parliament. Gurulov broke his car on a highway in Zabaikalia region. His suspension literally ripped off his car because he went into this huge hole in the middle of a speedy highway. That's a highway where you're going to be going around 65 miles an hour. I'm surprised he's even still alive. It's crazy. But what he said was, this is how our regional roads are served. There are no signs on many obstacles. I don't know who else is to tell about this. When will Ministry of Construction take care of this? This is what he asked. The thing is, does he not realize that the people who service and the officials who service the roads, they get, in most cases, a budget to fix all those roads. But all that money goes straight into their pockets. Straight into their pockets. How does this guy don't understand this? He's a flippin' deputy in the parliament. He knows the inside kitchen of it. I mean, look at me, guys. I'm a 25-year-old Russian guy knowing the inside kitchen. And this guy's playing dumb saying, oh, you should fix the... This is what Russians have been asking for many years. Fix the flippin' roads. But guess what? The corruption always is the strongest inside of Russia. And this has to be dealt with one way or another. But it's not going to happen when Putin is in power and his friends who got into power with him are going to be controlling the country. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support me, you can check out my Patreon in the links in the description. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to leave a comment on what you guys think about this video. And don't worry, guys, soon enough you're going to be seeing a very interesting videos about the official and the propagandists' children living around Europe and the United States of America. Soon enough you guys are going to be also seeing a very, very interesting podcast. Just give me a bit of time. Thank you very much, and have an amazing and a wonderful and a peaceful day. I will see you guys next time.